if, if you want to copy them and paste them again, because I know they won't see it in the chat, feel free. How's that?
Okay. Um,
Okay.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, Sue. Um, Thanks for being here. This is the great attendance, and I'm excited to hear more about what Tizzy has been doing. And I'm sure there will be an opportunity for all of us to share. This is a dialogue, and normally we'll start out with a message or two, and we'll let Tizzy kick it off if that's okay with you. Tizzy,
Sure.
welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Nice to meet you all. Hi, Sue. My name's Tizzy Hyatt, and I have just moved to Lansing in September from the Oregon coast, although I'm originally from Iowa. And I'm going to post a little thing I rewrote there about possible topics to discuss. Um, I just went to the community sing that was a event, oh gosh, near the campus, and I saw it advertised, and that's where I met Leroy, and so he invited me to this. And just to give you a brief introduction as to who I am an ordained priestess of the goddess, and I got ordained in 2003. I did a 6-year goddess spirituality degree, and I have been a spiritual counselor now since 2008, women's empowerment coach. I train people how to control their empathy, all that kind of good stuff. And I started my own nonprofit organization. It's called Goddess Within, and it's a feminist goddess spirituality temple. So I moved here to Lansing to open a physical space as well as what I've been doing online, and then I've done circles all the places I've lived. So that's kind of my long and short of me. And I wrote that possible topics to discuss as a I'm not sure who all was coming, and those are all things that we could certainly talk about. Um, it's one of the things I love to do is sing goddess chants, and that's why I went to the community sing. And I was very surprised because I don't know their world of music very well. It was from Rise Up Singing, which I think I have a copy of but haven't used very much. So I sing normally shorter, a little bit easier, more repetitive chants versus songs. And they sing longer songs that have like instrumentation. It's just a very different world. I told Leroy, I'm like, I think we're using a different set of encyclopedias. So that was cool. So that's sort of the gist of me, but I'd rather have a conversation with you all, like what are you interested to know about? Things I hear at least two of you, or if not three of you, maybe have been past presenters. So that's wonderful. If anything that I'm involved with is interesting to you, or you have questions about any of it, I'm happy to talk about any of it, or I take requests. You can say, sing a chant, Tizzy, whatever you'd like. So are, are you all familiar with the terms like pagan versus Wicca versus, nope, nope, I've got a shake in her head, Deborah. That was good. Okay. Should I start with that? Is that something you'd like to know the differences of what is paganism versus feminist goddess spirituality?
I think starting from the beginning is probably going to be good
Okay.
for me anyway.
Fair enough. Good to know where to start. So in my world, paganism is a giant umbrella term, like a big old umbrella term, and a whole bunch of things fit underneath that umbrella that aren't any of the major three religions that you're familiar with: Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. So in that general world, a lot of those folks think anything that isn't one of those three is paganism, which is, and that includes lots of other people who are Taoists, Shinto, just all different kinds of world religions. So that's really kind of have the big three defined. They say everything besides us is pagan. How people in this world define it is a little different. This is one of those things: is ask a different pagan, get a different answer. That is really quite true. If none of you ever heard that before, um, but if you still use it as a kind of big umbrella term of a group of loosely associated spiritual paths that all generally hold the earth as sacred, plus other stuff, minus other stuff, but basically that thing. It's pretty hard to define it when there's so many disparate groups. But a lot of Native American spirituality fits within that. And of course, even saying that's not a real thing. There's literally hundreds of different tribal groups and organizations, let alone Australian, let alone South American. There's a lot of indigenous practices, but all of those in the modern world fit underneath that umbrella term of pagan. This making sense so far? Yeah, okay. So the world that I came from was I first found paganism, and I say mixed sex paganism, as in men and women together and God and goddess together. That would be the indigenous gods and goddesses from lots of different cultures over time, all over the world. That was what I initially found when I was really young, like in high school. And then I found a women's only goddess chant singing circle, and I went to that, and whoo, did my cells light up. I was like, this is my place. I found that in '94, and that's been my call. That was absolutely my call, my vocation of, oh, I'm here to priestess to women. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. So I went and found a priestess training program, went to school for 6 years. I actually worked at the school I attended, and then that's my I am a priestess of the goddess for women. That's my calling. So feminist goddess spirituality comes from a different place than, oh, have any of you heard the terms Wicca? Anybody heard that one?
Yes.
No, we have one for Wicca. Great. See that I'm like cutting myself off somehow. Okay. So a lot of the things that you might have heard about Wicca or witchcraft or neo-paganism, that's a term that hasn't been around for a minute, or just general paganism in the United States, is mostly based in a revival of ceremonial magic that came out of 1950s England. Raymond Buckland wrote a book. He put it out in the world in the 50s, and it's very much about ceremonial magic. It's, let's see, we're going to invoke the elements, earth, air, fire, and water. We're going to invoke God and goddess. We're going to use some of those old god and goddess myths from mainly the indigenous Britannia world, and they sort of recreated and rebirthed modern paganism. Hello, welcome in. So that is one source code of that movement, and a lot of things you hear now, or have in probably the past 20, 30 years, have been from that world. So I found another thing that's really sourced from a different world. It's feminist goddess spirituality, and it grew from the 1970s second wave feminist movement. So you all have heard of this, right? Ms. Magazine, Gloria Steinem, National Organization for Women, women marched. They wanted equal rights. Please nod your head if you've heard of any of this. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So the movement that I'm a part of, that I'm familiar with, is from that movement. It is the women who were running the feminist movements figured out, they got together in huge groups, and they were trying to figure out, what should our political alignments be? What should our focuses be? And there's, if you put 100 women in a room, you're going to have 100 different opinions, but you still have to come up with some sort of consensus. So they actually started to invent the process of consensus, because they didn't know it. It existed before, but they didn't know it. The Quakers did it a long time ago. So they figured out, okay, we're going to separate into smaller groups. We're going to talk about our issues, and then we'll send a representative, and then we'll discuss it. So we'll come up with what it is we want to focus on. And to stick with me, this has to do with spirituality pretty quick, but it's important to know this part. So when they got together in those little groups, they started to talk about, well, what do you think is important? Why have you been drawn to the women's liberation movement? And women talked, and women shared, and they came up with things. So they went ahead and did their big political movement, and that was good. But what happened was, those little itty bitty groups that formed to talk about it wanted to keep talking. They wanted to connect. They wanted the solidarity. They wanted the sisterhood. They wanted to be in like company with other women. So they kept getting together, and they kept talking, and they kept working on, what is this thing that we are all wanting that we're not getting? And they formed something called consciousness raising groups, which formed straight out of the second wave feminist movement. And it happened all over the country. This is a US based thing, but it did spread into England, it spread into Australia, it spread. But it started here. So from the consciousness raising groups, these are a group of women getting together in women's living rooms. They're talking about what's important to them. They're talking about how they want to be empowered. They're talking about what makes them angry. How do they feel like they've been treated unfairly in society? How come if I have the same job a man has, I get paid less? What's up with that? Etc. Well, lots of things started to happen, but one of the things that started to happen was really important. A woman would say, here's my problem, and here's my personal problem. Here's my personal issue. She would discuss her issue. And in the circle, as they're sitting in someone's living room, Another woman is like, gosh, I have that same personal problem. So the next woman takes her turn and she says, oh, here's my personal problem. And she describes it. And then a different woman says, I have that problem too. Well, by the end of the go around, they figured out a lot of what they've been thinking are personal problems in their minds, in their personalities, in their lives, are systemic problems. They're problems women experience living in patriarchy, right? Y'all with me? Did I lose anybody? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know. Feel free to, if you're like, what did that mean? Feel free to interrupt me. So they realized that they were experiencing things in their everyday lives, normal everyday problems that were happening to a lot of the women at the same time. So these consciousness raising groups kept going. They kept deepening. They kept getting more intimate. They kept getting more supportive. And some of them, in some places, started to go to their consciousness raising group on Wednesdays. I swear this is the joke. They would go on Wednesdays, and then on Saturday they'd go to their temple if they were Jewish, or they'd go on Sunday to church if they were Christian. There's no stories about this from Islamic women, but I'm sure it existed. And they would go back to their women's consciousness raising group on Wednesdays, and they'd be mad. Anybody want to guess why they would be mad? You want to take a stab?
Nobody wanted to talk to him.
Close. What happened was they would go to church on Sunday, Christian church in particular, but it happened at the Jewish temples too, and they would hear in the homilies, in the book, somewhere in there, something that was along the lines of women are second-class citizens. And it pissed them off. They got righteously indignant and angry. So they go back to their women's circle on Wednesday and they'd be like, this isn't fair. Why is this woven into this thing that's supposed to be good for me? Why is this spirituality that's supposed to be uplifting me telling me I'm a second-class citizen? So what happened is, in some places, very organically, women began to say, I don't want to continue to go to that type of place and be told I'm not.
We lost a connection there. Hopefully he'll be back shortly. Tizzy, sometimes we fade out if we have a bad connection. So hopefully you'll be right back.
Interesting that I lived through that, what she's talking about. That whole era through the 60s.
Yeah, I was part of that too, Lucille. As a very young,
I'm so
help me,
sorry. I
help me.
lost my technical things. Could you start over, honey?
Lucille just mentioned that she lived through that period of time, and I was just commenting that I was in high school at that time, and that probably helped. I became of age during that time.
Lucille, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, and just for me, it was a realization that my marriage was totally dominated by male influence. Yeah, I had no voice.
Really sorry you lived through that, but I'm glad you realized it.
Oh yeah, I realized it and broke out of it. So yeah.
Well, more power to you, sister. It took a lot of strength to do, didn't it?
Mhm.
Tizzy, we've had another friend join right now. She just came in. Julia. Is that Julie? Yeah.
Welcome
you're
in.
she
So
can't get yeah.
Okay, there it is. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
we can hear you.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Okay. Yeah, I had some other things happening. So you are Tizzy?
Tizzy Hyatt. Yes, ma'am.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's good to be here.
I was just going over a little bit of the place from which I come, which is feminist goddess spirituality and where it came from.
Oh, yes.
So that's where we were. That was the start at the beginning question of what is feminist goddess spirituality? What is that?
This is a great overview, and I've learned more in the last 10 minutes than I have on this subject ever. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
blessed be. Does anybody have questions so far? Anything that I said that you needed more information about? Everybody tracking with me okay?
I'd like if you could quickly go over what I just missed about the feminist goddess overview. Yeah.
Okay. Feminist goddess spirituality in the thumbnail grew out of the second wave feminist movement.
Mm,
So it has a different root ball
yeah.
than modern day paganism or Wicca or witchcraft. Does that make sense?
So the second wave was what in the 70s?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The late 60s and the 70s. That's the women's liberation movement. Ms.
I was
Magazine,
I
all that
was
kind of
part
good
of
stuff.
that.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
you lived through it. So
Yep.
the place where I went to school, I went and got a 6-year degree in feminist goddess spirituality. And the women who created that school also lived through it, and they were definitely on the ground. You know, they were part of the organic movement that it was. And in some places, and in lots of places at the same time, women were having these. So you know consciousness raising groups? You remember that? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there you go. So feminist goddess spirituality, as I know it, grew organically out of women's consciousness raising groups. The
Okay.
women, they were in their women's circles. They would go to their big three religions. They would be told in some way they're a second class citizen. They got mad, and they would go to their women's circle and they said, what if there was a God who looked like me? And that's how the goddess movement was born, as I know
Great.
it.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, that was a pretty good thumbnail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So those women from that time evolved. And again, this happened in multiple places organically, and some of them started to connect, and it grew. And it has existed ever since the very first time someone said, what if there was a God who looked like me? All of goddess spirituality has been this organic, messy, but beautiful movement of women making it up.
Mm-hmm.
We really very rarely hear people say, how do humans make up religions? Oh wait, they make them up. they create them. So these women have co-created feminist goddess spirituality born from the second wave feminist movement. And that's what I went and got trained in. There you go.
And what do you do with your training then? Do you have sessions like this where you talk to people or?
Yeah, I do lots of different things, and I got ordained in 2003, so I've done a lot of things in that time. But I work with individuals one-on-one, and not to leave you all out, guys, I also do have male clients. Believe it or not, there's a lot of men in the world who are like, how do I get to be a how do I get my patriarchal damage out of my system? Because they get just as much patriarchal damage as we do. It's just different.
Oh yeah.
So half of my clients are male who are seeking ways to find that misogyny within, find those patriarchal unexamined ideas and shed them, get rid of them. Because usually they want to be better dads, they want to be better sons, they want to be better husbands, they want to be better humans.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Partners.
Partners. They want to be actual partners.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to live in a relationship with a woman where he's the head and she's the neck. They're like, ugh, how do I not do that? And so they
want to
need
teach
help.
their sons and daughters.
Yes, they want to teach their sons and daughters. How do we exist in egalitarian relationships? How do we hold equitable footing? What is a partner? How can a man learn to be a partner? And women too, they have the same problem of, how do I learn to be a partner and how do I not exhibit, learned
Dominance.
Yes.
The dominance.
Yes. How do the men not express dominance, and how do the women not fall into learned helplessness and, oh, take care of me? How can we stand on equal footing on the equal plane and say, we are equals in a partnership. Let's try to run a house and not die. Really. And it's not even in partnership. I've actually counseled single men who are like, I just want to be a better uncle, a better coworker. Really, how can I get this stuff out of my head that I got raised with from their family of origin, from a church, wherever, from culture, and even just to learn what it is, because very few of us are taught to examine with critical thinking skills the culture in which we are raised in, and to turn around and look at it and go, do I want this piece? Yes. Okay, great. Do I want this piece? Oh, no. How do I get rid of it? And that's a process. So I work with individuals, I work with couples, and I lead women's circles. So I take my training and I invite in women and I teach them. I do things online and I do things in person. And I moved here to Lansing and I bought a house that I'm currently remodeling into a goddess temple.
Oh,
I have
wow.
I have my own gloves in the Don't Be a Learned Helplessness. I've helped design and build 2 houses before this that I hope to open when we get to the point of having a goddess temple here in Lansing for women. So
Wow. That would be cool.
there you go. Does that answer your question, darling?
It answers mine.
Okay.
Um, do you speak in front of groups? Like if we wanted you to come and talk at our Fellowship for Today group, would give a 20-minute talk? Maybe
I can
just
do
five.
that. Yep.
Good. That's
Yep.
good to know.
Yep. I have talked to
Yeah.
a lot of people in a lot of different ways about a lot of things. So when I don't know if you can see that, but I posted in the chat just different topics that I've discussed for people.
Mm, okay.
Did somebody else
I
ask a question?
copied it. I
Yeah,
copied
I
it
have,
again, so I hope they can see it.
What'd you
Can
say,
you
Deborah?
give us your phone number so we can let Mary know?
Absolutely. Yep. I will just type it in there. How's that? Do do
Okay.
do 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 do. There you go. That's me.
Okay. Now
We're
I'm
also
on my
tornado free.
cell phone right now trying. Yeah.
I just want to mention real briefly, I encourage you to mute yourself if you're not speaking,
Yeah.
and unmute yourself when you want to talk, or raise your hand. There's also a raise hand option.
Did anybody else have a question that I missed? I think you had one, Deborah. Did I miss that?
yeah, I'm just having to move my computer to get some more battery here. But I just wanted to say that I have a stepdaughter who's like 45. And interestingly, she and her husband are at the level in which you're trying to achieve, or the message,
Mm-hmm.
and where they're equals and they understand that. So they're the generation. I'm 70, so that's this next generation coming up, and they're raising children with these same kinds of differences of male and female and the more of the balanced. So I will say that I think culturally the message is getting out. So if you can look at some of those younger families right now, I do anyway in my side, they truly are changing the dynamics uh, that I was raised in. And then, it changed around in the 70s to now. So I recognize that now. Yeah. When I look at them and I see the way they operate as a couple and raising their family and raising their boys. I have 4 grandsons and they are all about what you're talking about. So it's very cool.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that they have integrated that and are raising the next generation. And blessed be. That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, it knows that we know there's hope.
There
In
is
truth.
there is hope. There is hope, and honestly, that's one of my favorite sentences of all time: is "Truth will out. Truth
Yeah.
will out." And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reality is, I truly believe men can and absolutely can grow into absolutely egalitarian-minded, lovely, open-hearted, functional, happy humans. Just like I think women can be absolutely functional, intelligent, all the stereotypes are ridiculous. All humans have very equal
Yeah.
footing. I mean, really, you were born with more upper body strength than we have. I mean, like that. I mean, like that's about it. Really, by and large, we're extraordinarily equal. And I'm very lucky. I'm 51, and I've been married for 33 years to my junior high school sweetheart, who is about as we've tried to be as egalitarian as we can figure out how to be, and we just keep working on it. Like I said, we designed and built 2 houses together. So, I think there is hope, and I'm always happy to hear of and meet other people who are finding that path. And in fact, I have some clients who are raising kids in that same way. They learn this stuff, they keep working on it. We're all a work in progress, right? And they're trying to figure out how to raise their kids to be like functional, capable, happy, healthy people if they're boys or girls. We all need this in some way to figure out what are some of these bad stereotypes we got stuck in our brains that we need to shed? Because they're not
Mm-hmm.
healthy. They're not good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we
And
all, go ahead.
um, and it takes a lot of pressure off of men too.
Hmm.
A lot of men feel pressure to, um, be dominant and make decisions and provide for their spouses. And I just think it's a win-win and I'm sure all of you do too, think it's a win-win for everybody.
Hmm. I agree totally. I often, when I'm helping people one-on-one, I say, if you live in a household with more than one adult, whatever that arrangement is for whatever reason, how do you co-manage your household together? Whomever you are. If you are adult children living with aging parents, it doesn't matter. If your brothers and sisters are grown up, people can't afford rent anymore. We're living together more. It's real. Like, how can you co-manage households together in equal, healthy ways so y'all don't kill each other by the end of the week? That's a good thing, right? It's like how do we go? Okay, how do I do this well? So a huge part of what I do is based in feminism, but a lot of people have a lot of really negative associations with that word. But it is real that we all need egalitarian training, and we all need to figure out how to get back to thinking, how can I, shed what is harmful in me? And that starts with ourselves. How do you think of yourself? I like to say this often is developing a healthy self-esteem is a radical act. Developing a healthy self-esteem is a radical act. So if that's the first thing you're working on as a person on your own spiritual path, blessed be, you're doing more than a lot of folks ever figure out how to do. And like, okay, what is that? What does that mean for me? So if you internalize that and then you say, okay, now how are my relationships? Are they healthy? Are they equal? Are they, okay, what isn't working out there? Then I need to identify that and I need to shed it. How do I let that go? How do I find a better pattern? So it's systemic. It starts inside of our head, then it's between each other in our households, then it's in a community. How is this community of people? Look at all these lovely people you've gathered together. Good for you. I mean, it's amazing. We need more discussions. We need more connectivity. We need more networking. We need more other people in our lives. Modern life and our isolation is really not good for us. It's just terrible for us. Go ahead, Deborah.
What do you see as part of your goddess temple, are you calling it, or your goddess center?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of services do you see there, and how? What is your goal of your impact of moving to this area? And then the third question is kind of, did you choose this area um, because of Michigan State, because of the higher consciousness that you think is here? I'm just curious as to why you chose this area.
Well, that's a fan question. I'll see if I can try to remember all three of those. You might have to remind me
Yeah,
of some of them if I
yeah.
lose track. Why this place? I'll give you the short answer is she called me here. I would say the goddess told me this was the place.
Really?
Yep, absolutely.
Really?
Really truly, I was living on the Oregon coast. I I knew I needed to live someplace else to start a goddess temple to do the next piece of work I wanted to do. And the message was I needed to leave that place to do that. And I mean, I examined Spain. I mean, I really looked all over the world. I thought about Paraguay. I mean, really, it was, where am I going to go? But that was thinking. But the message was to here. The message was to
You
here.
actually saw Michigan, Lansing, Michigan?
Lansing, Michigan. I know nobody.
It's fascinating to me. That's fascinating.
Well, and I think that part of the answer to your question is because of the Michigan Women's Music Festival. Does anybody know about that? Has anyone ever heard that before? Okay, you know about it.
But that's
So
in like Hesperia, Michigan and such.
that's right. It's a little bit. It's about 2 hours away from
Yeah.
here, and it has closed. However, on that same land, new women's festivals have been born, and I know several women involved with that. Now, I've never actually even been to that land, but the school that I attended, many of those women had been to that festival. So
Ah,
I think there was some cultural overlap, not the same perhaps, but overlap. So I think there's like-minded women who've been going to that, and that started 50 years ago. So I think
Yeah.
that yeah, that's it. There's a lot of women in this town who either have been to that in the past or are going to the newer ones or have been to it in the past. You know, some of them have been to it for decades. So the like-minded culture was part of, I think, what drew me here. But really, it was a message because I wasn't really sure about where, and
Wow.
it was like I got called here. That's the long and short of it.
Wow.
I got called to this place, and I'm still, and why? I'm like, well, I think Lansing needs this. I guess that's the answer. And so, what do I hope to do here is, so I will have goddess circles here for women. Sorry, guys, I do private work with men, but I circle with women. And bless your hearts. Uh, I wish you well in groups elsewhere, but that's what I'm called to do is group work for women and one-on-one with everybody. So, and in my group work with women, I often do singing circles. I do feminist consciousness raising but in ritual, in circle, in sacred space. And we talk about all the things of it's both the mental, it is the emotional, and it is the spiritual of how do we go back to I am sacred and whole unto myself. And we step even further into we are sacred and whole and in a sisterhood with each other. And that is the work I do. It's fierce loving sisterhood. How do we build it? How do we become it? How do we know ourselves as the goddess within? That question. Remember the question from before? What if there was a God who looked like me? That's the name of my group is Goddess Within. How do we find the goddess within us? The divine spark within me. How do I shed any negative self-beliefs I have that are cruel, unkind, patriarchal damage? How do I instead say, how do I develop radical self-acceptance and balance the mystery of, and I say, look, here are things I need to improve on myself. These are honest things I can say, oh, I could grow here, but we could still love each other.
A lot of this stuff is multi-generational too.
Yep, very much so.
Understanding that really, you were raised by a mother who thought this way, who was raised by a mother. We go way back into the 1800s, and so of this kind of stuff that we want to break. So,
right. The mother wound is deep and old. I'm aware. Very
yeah,
old.
that's true. I'm dealing with that right now.
And that is very thick. Go ahead, Lori.
I want to encourage people that haven't spoken up yet too, if you've got questions to share, if you once Tizzy has answered Deb's questions.
Let's see. I got one out, which was what I'm going to do here. Did I answer that one okay? Okay. Why Lansing? I was called here. There was a third one, but I've forgotten it already. What was it?
May have been what kind of services were you going to offer?
I will have
And
an
you,
office. Yep, I will do private practice here. So I'll have individual and couples for spiritual counseling, for women's empowerment training. And one of the big things I end up doing is teaching people, not just women, but often men, how to control their empathy.
yeah.
We should have been trained how to deal with our empathy like we were trained to wash our hands and stand in line in kindergarten, but we don't do it. So it is there's so much to learn for that about how to ground, how to shield, how to broadcast your empathy, layers of that for people. I do a lot of that work with people. So there's my individual work, and then there's my group work with groups of women. And then I am very slowly writing a book and doing Zoom work too at the same time. So does that answer? Did I get all your questions?
Yeah. The only thing I'm thinking of is that this probably would be beneficial to kids too, like teenage girls, teenage girls.
Yeah.
Way good idea.
I might do teenage girls someday. I might have a group like that. At this point in my life, I've mostly been drawn to work with adults. I've worked with a handful of teenagers, several girls and a couple of boys too. But usually only it's their parents who find me and then they say, will you work with my child? Because of something that I work with that they see their kid is needing help with. Did anybody else have questions?
Sue?
Yeah, could you expand on like what exactly is a goddess temple and what you envision for the one that you hope to open in Lansing?
Well, so it'll be a parsonage, which is an old-fashioned word for the minister lives there. So I will live in part of the house, and part of the house will be our meeting space and my office. So that's a short answer. What do I envision for a goddess temple? Well, hopefully it's the first of many. I can vision pretty big. I really think that I have seen miraculous and amazing and beautiful healing things happen when women have a supportive sisterhood circle. They grow, they change, they evolve. Like you talked about, Lucille, if they're in abusive relationships, they leave them. They go back to school. They start businesses. They become they women with strong, loving, compassionate support from other women. Man, they evolve. It's amazing, and I've seen individual clients do astonishing things too. But really, that group work is, you know, we all do so much better with a network behind us of people who care about us, of people who are holding our well-being and have the best intentions for us. And I've seen it happen. I had circle in Wisconsin, I had circle in Iowa, other places I've lived, and I had circle in Oregon. And having a place that is like, here is a goddess temple. This is a place to hold the female as sacred. And this is the work we will do to so you find yourself as sacred and you find it in sisterhood with others. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be like weekly service like a Christian or church or a Jewish synagogue or that kind of thing.
I will probably end up doing either weekly, bi-monthly, monthly. It probably depends on how quickly I grow and how many women there are. But I have done things where I've had weekly circles before, and it's a very fast way for women to connect. And I often will do it through singing. I find singing to be one of the fastest shortcuts to spiritually connect that I've ever encountered. And I love it personally. So I probably will end up with maybe start monthly, then go to biweekly, then weekly, depending on how many women I meet and grow. There'll be
Okay.
circles. There'll be so much stuff going on. Hopefully, at some point.
I'd like to say something. If any of you remember Kathleen Cole from Fellowship, her son ran a bookstore and it had Goddess in the name of it. And it was over next door to Travelers Club in Okemos. It was an older house and he had a bookstore there. Do any of you know where he is now? Do any of you know him? No, evidently
I
not.
I thought he
don't.
was on the east side. Alan Co.
I'm not sure
And
where he
his
is.
I thought
son.
Triple Goddess aren't they next to the Green Door in the Avenue on
Oh,
Michigan Avenue?
that's what it was called, Triple
Triple
Goddess.
Goddess, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
There's a bookstore between right next to the Avenue Bar on
Oh,
Michigan
you know what? I think that's called Everybody Reads. I think.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
You're
right,
right.
right, right. Okay, that's the name of it. Yeah.
There's three businesses in one. That's why it's confusing. I've met the woman at Triple Goddess Bookstore.
Oh, okay.
And so it's three businesses. And I think the other one you mentioned is there's like three businesses sharing one giant retail space. So they're all in that same space together.
Oh, is it the Avenue
I don't know what the other two are called. I'm sorry.
bar? Oh, yeah, okay.
No, it's it's three businesses, like a children's bookstore, a regular adult bookstore, and then the Triple Goddess bookstore
Oh,
all
I didn't
together.
even know I didn't know Triple Goddess was even still around.
Yep.
Okay.
One of the few things I've done besides remodeling.
Can you
Anybody
tell
else
us,
have questions? Oh, go ahead.
can you tell us where your place is going to be located? Because I think it's near some places that these folks might know.
It's the 2000 block of Waverly on the west side.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I
That's
was
right.
thinking it
What
might
would
be
it
close to Unity. I'm not sure.
I'm really close to the river.
so the 200 block of
2000
or
block.
2000, what is there a cross street?
Oh, I'm really bad at this. Let's see.
Waverly's kind of long.
Yeah, we can learn more later about
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's by the river, is Marmore the closest street?
No, I think Tecumseh is. It might be the
Oh,
next one down.
Tecumseh. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
Right
like the
in my
river, Tecumseh,
neighborhood.
and then where we are.
yeah.
You're right in the neighborhood.
I'm sorry.
I said, you're right in my neighborhood.
Oh,
Well,
that's
there you go.
yeah.
There you go. People keep asking me for different. Do you know where this is? And I'm like, I don't know where anything is.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have questions?
You must be south of the river.
Oh, I'm a directionally impaired witch. I do not know the answer
Oh,
to that question. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at directions. I clearly chose a different psychic skill and skipped the direction line. I have no lodestone. I don't know. I'm very close to the river and Tecumseh Road.
You know,
mhm.
speaking, oh,
Go ahead.
does anybody else, speaking of witch and everything, one reason why Wicked was so popular with teenage girls is because of the empowerment theme of it.
Hmm.
And here comes a witch that is green, nobody accepts her, blah blah blah. But she is empowered. She embraces her own power.
Hmm. And she stands up to authority and speaks her
Yeah.
truth. And that's a big deal. That's a
Yep.
big deal because a lot of culture really is very much. I actually find a lot of women who are 20 years or 20 years younger than me or more are deeply much more disempowered than I feel like I grew up. So I think culturally, I think you're right. Wicked, that believe yourself, own your own authority, have your own agency, stand up to those in power, speak your truth. They're wonderful messages. But she's also deeply ostracized.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
she suffers a great deal
It was.
because of that.
You have to have the conflict in any good story, and that's the
Right.
conflict.
And you have
Yes,
to have the courage to face the consequences.
exactly.
Mhm.
I can't help but think how this relates to our dialogue. It's like, how do you create a space where people can hear each other and really want to hear each other and are good listeners as well as good sharers, and creating that sort of balance of giving and take. And it's may look at it as masculine feminine, but it's also just an energetic exchange that's more egalitarian, if you will.
Hmm.
Well, and truly, I would say that's one of the things that I talk about a lot is if you, we don't have to do that now, but in your own head, if you ask yourself, what do you think is masculine or feminine? Almost every one of our answers is going to be based on stereotypes. It's not actually based on our biology. It's
Mm.
based on how we're raised. If you ask somebody who is 80 years old who was born in India, she will have a very different answer than if you asked a 20-year-old man born in Australia. It's based on time and culture and the stereotypes we've been taught by our families and the place we live. That really, there's way less of those that are innate, that are spiritual, that are from the soul than we might imagine them to be. If you are raised to think you can do anything and feel anything and accomplish anything, a lot of those stereotypes will fall away. And you're right. I think it's way easier to look at it as how do we instead say, how do I have space? Am I a good listener? Do I need to make sure I'm listening to everybody who's asking a question? Do I need to make sure I share what I know? Where is my own inner balance? Where
Hmm.
is that?
Right.
Speaking of, is anybody who's quiet want to say anything?
I haven't been quiet, but I wanted to ask you, have you seen this book, Warrior Goddess Training?
I've heard of it, but I've not read it.
Become.
Okay, I've studied it. It's quite interesting. It's exactly kind of what your realm is. It's finding the inner warrior goddess that's in you naturally.
Mhm.
Just some of the chapters are kind of what you're going to energize your sexuality and creativity, grounding, purifying your vessel, claim your strength and ignite your will, opening your heart, speak your truth, embody your vision and your wisdom, choose your path. So it doesn't have as much of the masculine feminine side, but more the goddess within you finding your own strengths and your own identity and then building on that, which I think is probably the outcome that you're after
Mm-hmm.
in
It, it
someone.
it's true. The outcome I'm after is for all people to become, to see themselves as the sacred within, and
Yeah.
how do you embody that? How
It
do you
just
become?
says become the woman you are meant to be. So it could be woman or man that you're meant
Indeed.
to be. So it's kind of
Hmm.
It's true that, you know, I am called to work with circles of all women, but I'm very happy to say, and where I went to school, because I worked at the school I attended, there wouldn't be men who would contact us and they'd say, well, can we come to your events? And I'm like, I'm sorry, we do female only events. I have the phone number of one that is a mixed group that I'll be happy to relay to you, because that's a place where you could hopefully find community and connection and support. And my husband is like-minded. He's also a pagan, but he doesn't enjoy ritual and that sort of thing. But we've definitely had lots of different community over the years that is more along those lines. So we used to have a saying, because the school I attended was all female. It's like, it's not about men. It's just about us, because we need to do our healing alone together, and that's just the reality of it. If you put 10 women in a room, they're going to have a very different conversation than if you put 10 women and one man in a room, and everybody knows it. That's just reality, because that's how we've all been raised, to be different. So we have work we can do together. We have work we do individually. The work I'm called to do with a group is just happens to be with all women.
mhm.
Melissa or Matt, do you have any?
I just want to say how empowering this was for me too. I love getting these little pockets of moments where I've, entered a group where I just, I feel empowered for, whatever reason, and it kind of gets me back on track and snaps me out of my funk, right? Where you're feeling stagnant and then you get something that invigorates you to just keep going. And one of the empowering things outside of what you have shared about yourself and what you want to do, and I'm so glad that you were called to Lansing. And I want to say that it was because of me. I'm just kidding, because I need you selfishly. But
That's awesome.
also, like, I loved how you were going historically about how this started decades ago, and there are literally women in this group that you were talking about. You know what I mean? They were in those groups. We are looking face to face with people that you were talking about historically, and without them we wouldn't be able to do this today. You know what I mean? And
I do.
so that's really empowering for me too. So that's that was really awesome to see this full circle.
Well, blessed be. I'm glad to hear it. And you're exactly right. If not for the work of our foremothers who
Mm,
changed the way things are, I, I couldn't have my name on a mortgage or a checking account or a credit card. And yet there are so many women. And I tell you what, I've met women who are in their 60s and 70s who don't know about it. It's amazing.
yeah.
When I was in Oregon, almost all the women except for one in my circle were in their late 60s and 70s. And they lived through the same time of the second wave feminist movement, but they were unaware of it. I mean completely unaware of it. They knew that they had to wear skirts to school, but their daughters didn't, but they had no idea how that happened. So we have even lost the information within even women who lived through the generation who were there, but they were so isolated from it they didn't know about it.
They never burned their bra.
Nope. I said, do you remember when you couldn't have a checking account? And they said, yep. And I'm like, and then someday you could? Yep. Do you know how that happened? Nope. Like, okay,
Mm.
this is information is not universal. That we have lost just the basic reality of what's happened in the last 50 years.
And birth control.
And birth
And
control.
and I'm not talking about abortion necessarily, but just being able to access the pill.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. There were people who were against that. And
Yeah.
way back when Margaret Sanger was advocating for it back in the early 1900s, men didn't even want women to have other forms of birth control. I mean, it was just terrible.
It is true. It is true.
But
And
we have that now, and it would be nice if women knew that whole history, how that came about, how they're able to control their own bodies even.
it's true. I just saw somebody did a survey of 500 12th grade kids. So they're seniors in high school. And less than 20% of them even understood the most basic realities of how human beings reproduce.
Ooh.
Jeez.
80% of 12th graders did not understand just basic, normal, biological sexual reproduction in humans.
Hmm.
So we are perpetuating ignorance within our culture, let alone how we get better. Like what it is and how we'd like it to get better. First, you have to know what it is. So, I mean, that was pretty alarming. I was like, holy buckets, 80% of 12th graders could not explain just the
Yeah,
reality
that's
of how we make babies.
unbelievable in today's age.
Yeah.
But and this was not in the survey, but I'll bet you all of them have seen porn on the internet. And if that doesn't tell you there's something sick going on in our culture, that they can't explain basic biological reality, how our baby's made, but they can watch pornography free on the internet, which pollutes their brain with all of these like really awful concepts. I'm like, we're not doing real well here, kids. Like, we have a cultural problem that we're not conveying real information, and things are getting lost, and we need to help. And I agree, we do need to help the next generation. So maybe I will be called to do a girls group at some point, or a young women's group, because it is absolutely necessary that we figure out all of these things about how to be men and women are different, but we are
And there are people that don't want that taught.
Right.
absolutely.
What?
It's true. Just saying that I am a feminist, that I'm a priestess for feminist goddess spirituality. You can just imagine publicly stating that what has been aimed at me. Like misogyny is alive and well.
I want people who haven't had a chance to speak or they got something on their mind, but I also want to invite you. Do you have a brief chant you'd like to share with us?
Oh, sure. Would y'all like to hear a song?
Sure.
Anybody? Does anybody have anything they'd like, a comment, a question before I do that?
Maybe now would be a good time for me to jump in before the singing starts. I My wife and I got married, and she graduated from Penn State. She's super smart, got a big job, and we had kids, and I was Mr. Mom forever, um, until they were successfully in school. And so I think in the context of this discussion, I don't relate directly, obviously, but it also occurs to me that there's another group, uh, and I didn't meet. Um, I don't know of men specifically who were Mr. Mom, um, but uh, I think there's got to be a fraction of, and also that there's an awareness that Mr. Mums might get treated differently. There's, questions or judgments maybe. And so it's an interesting discussion. And I also, the other part is that my wife had, was treated differently because she was, leading research teams, and not every guy would appreciate her stature and her brilliance. There's two things that can be offensive. But anyway, I'm glad glad to hear, and glad to see my friends, and um, that's all I need. Thanks.
Well, I'm glad that you shared, and I'm sorry that you went through being isolated like that. I'm sure that your kids were very lucky to have you. And believe it or not, I've met a couple Mr. Moms, as you say, in more than one way, and they share similar things of isolation and not having connections with a lot of other men, and definitely getting some feedback from other men that is not positive about their role and what they have done. So
And I
you
think there's some
aren't alone.
shaming.
There is shaming. There is, and isn't that just awful? Because what is more important than raising the next generation? I mean, to be like, I'm an active parent, but I'm taking care of these little people who are turning into adults. I think that's a sacred calling. That's beautiful work. It is. It
All in
really
favor,
is.
say aye.
Yay! Well, I'm sure your kids were very lucky to have you, and I'm sorry it is so isolating, and I wish that weren't so. And my husband actually did a men's group in Madison where we used to live, and he had a man who was a Mr. Mom, and in fact, after he was his own kid's Mr. Mom and his kids went to school, he became Mr. Nanny for a friend's kids because he was such a good parent. They're like,
Yeah.
"Would you take care of our kids? We're both going to go work." And so he was even a professional Mr. Nanny, and just the judgments he got and how that was amongst other men. And they talked about that a lot about why do we think nurturance is bad? What's wrong with us that we think that? That they did a lot of work on that, and it really was very healing that they did that as a group because there is there are some really toxic ideas about what is a good man. I'm like, isn't being a good parent being a good person? I mean, really. So, and I'm sorry your wife went through that too about with her coworkers, the women in leadership. Oy vey. And I'm sure she did get it for both her stature as a leader, a director, a manager, and her brilliance. Ooh, that whole I'm threatened because a woman has power. I'm threatened because a woman has a brain. Like, really? You get to have your own. She does too. There's so much to unravel. There's so much unconscious patriarchal damage we all have from growing up in this culture. It's like you have to find every little piece of it and get rid of it and go like, and then install a better pattern that is, not shameful, that is healthy, that is loving, that is growing, that is compassionate, that something you would want to teach children. And we all have so much work to do. Me too. All of us do. It's an endless parade. And I think that thing of also saying at the same time you can have radical self-acceptance. You can learn to love yourself as you are. Be like, it's okay. I love myself as I am, warts and all. Everybody's a work in progress, and that's okay. So, well, thank you for coming. And I always feel bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I do one-on-one work with you, but working with men in a circle, maybe someday I'll do that. But there's so much work to do with women, and that's what she calls me to do.
Well, why don't you sing that song? Somebody asked you about a song.
Yes, I could sing a song. Let's see here. Let me find lyrics so you can see. Do you want to learn it or you just want me to sing it to you? Anybody?
Just sing it to us at this point. We're
Just
getting
sing it to
short
me.
on time.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's get a really, really, really short one. How about that? That's easy to sing. I'm going to post the lyrics so you can see them. I think that helps people learn it. There we go. Alrighty. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Do you want to learn it? Yes? No? Okay. I'll sing a line and then I'll sing it again so you can sing it with me the second time. Earth my body, earth my body, water my blood, water my
blood,
air my breath, and air my breath, and fire my spirit, fire my spirit. I'll sing it a couple times just so you can hear it. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. There you go. There's an itty bitty chant for you. There's a whole world of pagan chant if y'all like that. There's literally hundreds of them out there in the world. That's kind of part of what we sing when I do Women's Circle.
That's awesome.
Anybody can learn this music and use it. And in fact, I sent you a couple of those, Leroy, the Women with Wings and Labana and all. There's just wonderful things out there for free now that you can hear some of these chants and use them like your own medicine. You know, things that calm you down, things that lift you up, things that give you energy when you need to clean something. There's a whole world of them. And they're short and easy to remember. They're not great big long songs. You can put it on, repeat, and you can change your mood with music. So I'm all about that. That's a simple, straightforward, easy magic anybody can do.
Awesome. This has been a very rich conversation, and it's a hard act to follow there. So we should probably wrap it up. If you have suggestions for future dialogues, please let me know. And thank you so much for being here, Tizzy.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. It was fun. It was lovely to meet you all.
Does anybody ever have any burning things that they need to share before we depart here?
Well, I'd like to thank Tizzy, of course, and you, Leroy, for arranging all this and including us.
Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you again, Tizzy, and everyone here as well. It's a great group.
Thanks for having me.
If we figure out how to turn this off, we'll be good.